Thank you everyone who is joining us right now. We are going to wait a couple of minutes until everyone is settled down. And keep tuned. Okay, well, I think we're good to go. And now, thank you everybody for being here today. And it's a pleasure for us to be here doing this event because it has been created specifically for the needs of young scholars and early career scholars, but it's of course open to all those at any stage of their career. My name is Noelia Mendez Santolaria, and I am an IAFFE member and a feminist economist from Argentina. On behalf of the Online Event Committee and the Young Scholars Committee of IAFFE, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the third IAFFE Academy event on building career as a feminist scholar. I say the third event as this event is part of a series of events where we cover all aspects of career building to support informed choices and success for our members. Each one presents a panel of experts sharing their career journeys in a different sector, from NGOs to government and academia. Today's event is hosting brilliant feminist scholars with working experiences in government in Latin America, so I'm very excited about this. The last two events were held in February and March, and we hosted brilliant feminist scholars from NGOs and academia. You can check it out on IAFFE website and YouTube channel. I also strongly recommend staying tuned to IAFFE's social media and website for additional events, not only about career building, but about feminist economics research methods and building bridges between academics, advocates, and activists. I now want to turn to the framing of today's event. In the past, several IAFFE members expressed their desire to obtain tools that will allow them to develop their careers as feminist scholars. Also, IAFFE received a lot of new young members in the last few years, and we welcome many more. So we decided to develop this serious career building event for young feminist scholars everywhere to learn more about what careers in different sectors are like and to discuss possible challenges and benefits in a particular sector. Just finally, I turn to the logistics for today's panel. This is a recorded event and it will be posted on YouTube after an hour, although we will have a 20-25 minutes Q&A sessions will not be recorded to support a more candid dialogue. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. I will be checking that out and moderating those after the panel. As this is a Zoom call and not a webinar, a friendly reminder to keep yourself muted, please. With no further delay, I tell you that the discussion will be moderated by dear Ana Luiza. And now I will leave the floor to her so she can kick off this amazing conversation.
Thank you so much, Noelia, for the introduction. Thank you, Noelia and Yasgi, for the invitation to be here today. It's a great pleasure. So my name is Ana Luiza Matos Oliveira. I am a feminist economist from Brazil. but I'm currently based in Mexico City. I'm working at the UN's Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. In the past, I have worked closely with the Brazilian government and for the Canadian government on public policy and social inclusion issues, also on feminist economics. And I am now more focused on Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean due to the technical assistance work that we do here at ECLAC, Mexico. I also present myself as a feminist economist, and I have been an IAFFE member since 2018, since the conference in New Paltz. I highly recommend getting more involved with IAFFE. It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to meet new people, to meet other feminist economists from all over the world. And I currently serve in IAFFE's membership committee, and I'm hoping to meet you all in Geneva in June, either in person or virtually as well, because the conference will be hybrid. So today we have 3 feminist scholars here with us today, so I'm very happy to introduce them. They have an extensive background in academia, and they will share their experiences and tell us about their day-to-day life at work, their career paths, what it's like to be a feminist in their fields, and of course, how they work through the challenges that they faced in their early careers. So we're very excited to be able to hear them. I'm very happy to have to present you with no further delay to Ana María Tribin. She's a former governor commissioned for gender equality in the Colombian government between 2018 and 2019. Now she's a public policy specialist at UNDP. Lucía Cirmi Obon, Undersecretary for Equality Policies in the Ministry of Women, Gender and Diversity of Argentina. Welcome. Stefania Tapia Marchina, Compliance Director at the Unit of Productive Development at the Ministry of Economy of Mexico. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be here today with us. I'm going to I have some questions prepared here for us today, and I'm going to tell you what the questions are, and then it's going to be the same question for all the 3 of you. So we can get all the 3 points of view from each of you on the same question. So I would like to start off today by hearing about your role as a government employee and your career goals within that position. What sort of challenges have the 3 of you faced in pushing for a feminist agenda in the government? So I would like to start with Ana María. Could you briefly describe those aspects for us regarding your previous role and your career goals at the Colombian government? Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm happy to share my experience and maybe help others to decide what to do in the future. So I worked in the government from 2018 to 2019. I was the commissioner for gender equality. It has a ministerial rank. So the challenges there were a lot of challenges because I have a small budget and I had to articulate the whole government related in topics of gender equality. And it's difficult to convince people about the importance of gender equality. What I realized there was that most of the people is not that they want women to suffer or something like that. They think it's not that important, and there's no real inequality or real emergency regarding the differences and the obstacles that we face. So for me, it was very important to have all this academic background. I have a PhD in economics. So the way I started to push the agenda and articulate everyone was with statistics. I had these huge presentations for high rank officials in all ministries, and also I was working in 2 fronts, with the high ranks and with the technical staff. So I was convincing with all these tools, and that way I was able to push the agenda. But that's difficult. The other thing I want to mention is regarding being a feminist economics, you have in the government, you have these two obstacles for people that, for the economists, they in average, I feel that they think about you as an economist of a lower quality. So you have to start showing all your tools or your knowledge in order to make them think that you are equally capable and the topic is in reality important. And you can do that, but it takes a lot of effort. In the other hand, when you are dealing with people that are experts in gender equality, the world that is tricky there is not the feminist, is the economist. So they are a little bit afraid of all these tools that you are using, all the mathematics things, so they feel a little bit threatened by that. So it's difficult also to get in. And sometimes I feel that the people in gender equality in other fields, they think that you are very traditional and you don't get exactly the whole thing about gender equality. And in that sense, you have also to work in that group, showing that you can give a different perspective and also work together to achieve equality.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria. That's very interesting. Lucía, could you tell us about your role and the goals in the government of Argentina at the Ministry of Women, Gender and Diversity, please?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm glad to be with all this IAFFE. As Undersecretary of Equality Policies, that's my role. And my main work is related with tackling all the inequalities, not only in care, but also work, sports, politics, rurality, with an intersectional perspective, right? And I would say that my challenge is, it's similar to what Anna was saying, but also as a ministry, because as in the ministry, we had to face the same face the same discussions as women had to face in the reality, right? Because all these inequalities, we face it at the end of the road. We face it as women, but they are related with things that other people decide in other ministries, right? Like Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Work, Production. So we all the time we had to discuss that. Wait, this is also our matter, right? We are talking about work because this affects us. We are not only for violence issues, because that's the place they want to put us, right? And I would say our main goal nowadays is related with this care system bill. We have the last 2 years we have been working and in a participatory way to prepare and write this care system bill that also includes a leave scheme reform. And nowadays it's at the parliament and they are discussing this bill because we want to make a law. We want to make this care issue a law for the future. It includes not only childcare, but also elderly people care, people with disabilities, and this leave reform that includes paternity leave in an equal way than maternity leave. So we have many things going on nowadays, but I would say our main goal is to make this bill a law that we have been working in the last 2 years. And during those years, we had to discuss this, what Anna was saying, all the time, with numbers, with statistics, but also knowing how to talk to the people who are taking the main decisions, right?
Thank you very much, Lucía. Stefania, could you share with us about your roles and goals in your current position?
Thank you, Ana Lucía, and it's really an honor to be alongside Ana, Lucía and Luiza here, people with such experience and sharing such rich lessons that they learned along the way. I've been working at the Ministry of Economy in Mexico for a little bit more than a year now. And for me, I was very fortunate that we have a women minister and I have a women undersecretary above me as my direct boss. And they both have a passion to move women's rights forward. So that was very fortunate to me that I came in and this leadership was in place and they wanted to continue to strengthen these efforts. What we basically do from the unit development, the productive development unit is SMEs, so a small, medium, and micro, small, and medium enterprises. And my role there is to design, implement, and evaluate policy towards women-led MSMEs. But when I came in, what I saw is that the will and the political leadership was in place to support women entrepreneurs, but the vision and more of the feminist aspect that makes it more solid and gives it the methodological support was not in place yet. So it was people that are passionate about it, but they needed someone with the knowledge on gender and economics to come in and put in place this vision and make programs more targeted. And I was very fortunate to be chosen as that person. And I'm currently, besides designing the programs and implementing them, really creating the narrative, having all of the vision of the ministry institutionalized, and also training some of the directive ranks on how to implement this in their different roles within the other undersecretaries of the ministry. So that has been an incredible experience. One of the challenges I would like to highlight that is a reality for most Latin American countries is budget-wise. We are very low on budget. We have, well, at least on my little part of the ministry, we are zero-based. So we need to be very creative. We need to use a lot of digital tools and work with a lot of other institutions and also the private sector to reach others and create more robust programs. But it's also an interesting challenge that makes us think that we can do a lot with less, but that what could we do if we had more, right? So a little bit of something to think about. And yeah, I think for this question, I'll leave it there. Thank you again, Ana Luisa.
Thank you very much, Stefania. That's very insightful. So moving to our next question, as you know, this is a career development event. So we would like to know what you consider being the benefits and potential drawbacks of working in your field. This could be regarding work hours, regarding working conditions, professional and personal life balance, maybe backlash for pushing a feminist agenda or anything else that comes to your mind. So I would like to ask you about the benefits and potential drawbacks of working in your field. So maybe I'll start with Stefania. If you could go first and name one aspect of each, if you can, please.
Of course. Well, I'd say one really good thing, a benefit, is that you get to influence a place of decision-making that affects a lot of people in your country with a feminist economist vision. So that is definitely a great benefit and an amazing experience to have. But a big challenge, it is indeed working hours and a very hard work-life balance. At least in my experience in government, working hours are long, 10 to 12 a day. You know, weekends are not guaranteed depending on the workload. And in a way, it is rewarding because you are supporting your country and specific populations that are going to be benefited by what you're doing alongside a bigger team. But on the other hand, as a feminist, we know that we should strive for a better work-life balance. That right now I'm not a mother, I don't have anyone to care for, but if I had, it would be a huge challenge. So it puts you in a position of having to decide or having to sacrifice a lot, family, friend-wise, and that shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to be sacrificing your feminist economics passion and what you want to do to support just more your area of influence to move forward in a feminist agenda with your life and your personal matters, and especially your family, your friends, or you have children or other family members to care for. So that is something that it's a bigger feminist agenda that we should strive for, but it is really hard to put it in place. And that does receive a lot of backlash. You could talk all about gender equality and put your statistics and your methodology and start creating a path. And when you say, you know what, I can only work 8 hours a day because I have a life, then that's probably not going to be even compatible with continue to working in the government. So I would say that's something that we need to continue to reflect and to push forward with not only government, but other high-end jobs for women in corporate and international organizations as well, that also demand a lot of hours and still put women at a juncture and having to decide about more of a balanced life. This is true for men forever, but they've always had us, right, to support them in having those options open. So besides men stepping in, we also need work to step in and create more balanced opportunities for women to grow in their careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefania. Lucia, what can you tell us about this based on your experience?
I think I share a lot with Stefania. I think the greatest thing is that you can actually change reality. I mean, we change reality from many different places, but I think, or I believe in welfare state, and I think from the state, sometimes you can make stronger changes. But that's also a huge responsibility, right? Because then you are responsible for those changes. And sometimes for making them, you have to convince a lot of people and a lot of different voices. And that's also the nice part of doing politics. And I shared this idea with Stefania. And I think it's a challenge for us as a feminist economist to show that this idea of being in a decision role, you have to quit your life, your personal life. This is only a male idea of working, right? And no women can make that. Now I'm on this decision role and I'm breastfeeding, right? So I have this shorter, how can I say, I work only 6 hours per day, and I had to do also extraction here, right? And every time I do it, I'm not thinking only me and my baby, but I'm also thinking that I had to change the idea of what is to be in a decision role, because otherwise it's not only affecting the women who are on the role, but also other ones who think, oh, I'd rather not choose this position. I would say no because I won't do it in this male way, right?
Thank you very much, Lucia, for sharing that. Ana Maria, do you agree with what they have said? Do you want to add another point to what they have said?
Yes, well, I have a similar experience. When I was in the government, my kids were 2 and 5 years old. So for me, the experience was very rewarding. I see it as an immersion because I was immersed in this work. I was not able to go to my kid's birthday. I wasn't able to be in the weekends because I was traveling all around. That was amazing because, well, it was amazing not to be with my kids, but it was amazing to know all these different realities of the countries. And the reward is very rewarding and enlightening because you can translate your ideas into the reality. You can really help people, and then you can be aware that all the things that you put at the end of the paper, like you have to make I don't know, childcare in the middle of the rural area. Well, you find out that it's not that simple, no? And that's interesting. But in the other hand, you have all these papers in your head that you can have new and innovating ideas and really help people. For me, it was very challenging. It was an immersion of 1 year because I had a leave from the central bank. That was my job. So I knew that I will be immersed in this for a year completely, and then I will be out of it. But it's important. I think it's designed for a man that doesn't care about family, I guess, the government. So it's very difficult for a woman with 2 kids to be there for more than a year. And you need your husband to support you during that time, because otherwise it's just impossible. But it's also another challenge that you have there. So and the other thing I wanted to add is being in that position, I had to deal with a lot of cases of gender-based violence. So it was impossible for me just to say at 8, I'm not going to work more, because then you have all these cases and people calling you that something terrible is happening. You cannot just ignore those calls. And I think for our countries, what is happening is that the institutions are not that strong, and there's a lot of gaps. And you, as an official, you have to fill all those gaps all the day. So if you manage to get a strong institution that help women if they face violence, you can allow officials and government officials to have schedules. So it's tricky, but it's very interesting and very rewarding in a sense.
Thank you, Ana Maria. That's very interesting what you said about the pressure to fill the gaps where the government doesn't reach. So then as an official, you have the pressure to, to do what it's not being done. Thank you very much for sharing that. So I would like to turn to another question regarding your career path. If you look back at the beginning of your career in the government, do you recall any inflection point that made you choose this specific path? Can you identify any important decision that you made that brought you to the point where you are today? So I would like to start with you, Lucía.
I identified 2 points, I would say. The first one, I started working in a microfinance NGO, and working there, I realized that people, before receiving loans, they need social rights, economic rights. And then I thought, okay, so my place is first the government to work on these rights, right? And the second inflection point is when I realized I didn't have to wait anymore for men to think that gender issues and feminist economics issues were important, because I used to work at the Ministry of Economy, and I used to present all this stuff, and I used to thought, okay, there will be a point when they will find that this is important, and so I wait. And then I realized, no, I shouldn't wait anymore. A few years later, I shouldn't wait anymore. We think this is urgent, because the problems they are working on, actually they are gender problems. They have gender issues inside, and they have care issues. So when I realized that I started working with other women outside the government to push these issues, and I would say that change in my mind also brought me here. It does brought me here, because they in the ministry they get to know me. They got to know me because of this advocacy, especially for a care system, right?
Thank you very much, Lucía. What about you, Ana Maria?
Well, I think, I was a researcher at the central bank, and I started to work in a paper about maternity leave that had a lot of resistance, because I was in a central bank. But I was saying that this is important because that is related with labor market outcomes for women. And at the end, again, this process of teaching and showing why this is important is a process that is long, but at the end, you can do it. So with this paper, it started to be important in Colombian. People were reading it, and it changed the legislation. Now in Colombia, we have a longer maternity leave and a longer paternity leave. So that was, I really like that outcome. It was a long process, but it was amazing because with the other papers I made, like someone in, I don't know, in Denmark or some place were reading it, and that was it. So I wanted someone in Colombia, because those papers were about Colombia, to read it. So with that paper, I was able to translate my ideas and my academic work into something that is real to help people. So after that, I was feeling that I needed more of that. And that was the moment when I started to see how I can be part of this process of policy making. And I think that was that was key to take then the decision to join the government.
Thank you, Ana Maria. Stefania, would you like to share?
Sure. I would say I'm still in my early career in government. I've only been there a year. But I'll share a little bit of how I got there. I was studying my PhD, and I remember receiving a little bit of backlash from a few professors because of my feminist approach to my thesis, which was on economic inequalities and its relation to care and unpaid domestic and care work. So they were, sort of a bit hesitant about it. And a few people I remember, like, one-on-one told me, like, keep it low key, don't be such, outspoken about being a feminist. But I didn't really care. So I continued to be outspoken about my feminist views. And in 2018, the current national administration came in after elections, and we had the first, historical paritarian ministers. So half of the ministers were women in this new administration. And this also opened a lot of opportunities for women teams coming into the national government. And one of my professors started working at the Ministry of Economy because of all of these movements happening after the election. And I remember I only saw her 2 to 3 classes when I would be outspoken and talk about my feminist views. And, a couple years later, as I was finishing my PhD, she called me that she had a position for me because they needed someone with a feminist view to implement the public policy. So that was definitely an inflection point for me, in a way that I really learned that you should speak your mind and that you shouldn't be persuaded by feminist backlash, anti-feminist backlash in spaces. I know this is different for everyone depending on the level of safety where you're at, but it really showed me that staying true to what you believe, it can pay off. But on the other end, also what feminist movements have been fighting for so long and moved along the international agenda has also come through to some national governments, at least, and it's paying off in a way. So that really gave me a sense of hope, because we know as feminists, sometimes we can really feel a bit defeated with the world and with everything that happens on a daily basis. But, and I remember when I was doing my bachelor's thesis, I was studying how UNDP was influencing Mexican policy. So at, 10 years later, finishing my PhD and seeing how this influence from the ground, from the grassroots up to the international agenda and international governments was really opening spaces. And that was the inflection point for me to start working there and considering as a temporary career path, because as we talked about, it is taxing and for me, it really depends on the administration and the leadership that allows us to do something that is worth that while. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Ana Luisa.
Thank you, Stefania. So my next question has a lot to do with what Stefania just shared about backlash. Ana Maria has also touched on this on her first answer. So I would like to ask you regarding how it is to present yourself as a feminist economist. So that can have some negative connotations for some people. So it can affect how one is perceived in their career, and even result in backlash, as you have already shared. How has that, is that something that affected your work? So you have already shared a little bit about that. And how has it affected your work, if it has? And how have you dealt with that? So maybe we can start with Ana Maria.
Okay, so I guess I said a lot of things about this, but I will add something that I find that is difficult to deal with. When you're a feminist economics, sometimes you are seen as a person who can just work in one thing, no? Gender. But the thing is, gender is in everything, no? So that's the part that we have to work on to show that it's not, you can be a feminist economist, expert in trade, or expert in a lot of things. Feminist economics is like an identity that you have, and you can, with this perspective, work in a lot of topics. So I think we have to make a lot of work in this way that we present our identity of feminist economics, that is not a narrow thing, it's a wide thing, that it can be present in all topics and in all fields. That's it.
Thank you. Lucia, would you like to share your comments?
Yes, I think in quite similar to Ana. So the risk is that they put you in a little box, so you are only a chance to talk when it comes to gender issues, right? But it's not in that way. We are economists, that we apply a feminist perspective, and so we had to challenge this idea all the time. And I find the strength of the women's movement out there to do that, right? And we so I think at the same time we are economists and we are dealing with all these boys talking about economics, we had to organize ourselves out there as women, and this is the strength. And I can give you an example. In Argentina, it happens that all the feminist economists, we are all only called to talk about gender issues in labor market or that kind of stuff, you know, and 8th of March, they call us, and the rest of the year, nothing. So we made this kind of union that is called Paridad en la Macro, Parity Macroeconomics. We joined only to talk about macroeconomics, and we tried to be outspoken and to go to the media to talk about this, because otherwise, if you turn on the TV at night when it comes to opinion, you know, talk shows, it's only men talking about macroeconomics. So, and I think IAFFE especially has a lot to say about macroeconomics. I had the opportunity to be there in Glasgow when they had this special panel about this topic. And I think we had to be there talking about all the things, monetary policy, all the macroeconomic things is a way of going out of this little box they want to put ourselves. And I think we had to speak all the time about how gender inequality is functional to this economic system. Otherwise, is like we only talk about cultural stuff, right? Now, gender issue, we're gonna change it in a cultural way, and it's not like that. And I think we, as feminist economists, are the ones who can explain this in a better way. Thank you
very much, Lucia. Stefania, would you like to add to that?
Sure. First of all, I do fully agree with Lucia and Anna. Definitely, they put us in a box, and since I work in government, March has been a really hard month. It's not exciting anymore. It's really crazy because your work looked like triples for a couple of weeks. But besides pushing for a greater view of what a feminist economics vision is, also what I found a little bit of backlash is on being more methodical and rigorous about the gender vision. Because as I was saying earlier, I found that they were implementing programs geared towards women, but they didn't really had this feminist view from a research perspective or research informed or even international agenda informed in a more strict way. And I did find a little bit of backlash trying to be more strict in that and saying, well, this is the path that research shows, and all of the international organizations are recommending in their guidelines, etc. So institutionalizing it's hard. It takes time. Even in Mexico, that we have a lot of laws that have institutionalized it. We have the National Women Institute that does an amazing job following up with each ministry each year and what they're doing and giving them guidelines and so on. But still, I think inside, like deep inside the government, we still have a lot of work to do in that sense of making it feminist and not only mainstream gender or even just targeted to women without the correct vision that really has a bigger impact. So I'll leave it there because for backlash, I want to talk more in the next question about young feminists. So I'll wait. Thank you.
Yes, so now we're coming to our final question for this part of our event. So I would like to know if you have in your position or previous positions the opportunity to mentor young feminists. So in IAFFE, for those that do not know, we have a mentoring program. We have a pilot going on right now, and hopefully it will be continued in the next year. So just a little bit of advertising. So I would like to know if you have any words of recommendations for young scholars that would like to pursue your career path. And if you could give a recommendation to yourself a few years ago regarding working in the government, what would you say? What would be your tip to your younger self? So maybe we'll start with Stefania.
Thank you, Ana Luisa. I don't think I've formally had the opportunity to mentor young feminists, but I remember back when I was studying my master's, when I started to be, to strengthen my position as a feminist, we had small groups at school, 9 to 12 people, and we had like this seminar kind of classes. And, I would still be learning a lot about feminism and feminist economists. And I would receive a lot of backlash from a few of my classmates, or some others, maybe not backlash, but kind of like hesitant and like, what is this is kind of new. And it was a little bit hard, but it gave me a lot of experience in debating and getting my arguments right. But, years to follow, it's been like 6 years now. Most of my classmates, especially the female classmates that were not feminists back then, are now outspoken feminists. And that's, a result of the feminist movement and the media and a lot of things going on. But, a few of them have told me, like, I learned a lot about what you were saying back then. So even when we are not aware, or it's not in a formal way that we are mentoring others as feminists, when we speak about it and when we do the research and learn it and strengthen the vision within ourselves and out there, we are doing that work for the feminist movement and, in honor for the women that gave us that. Because I was thinking, have I mentored young feminists? And the first thought I had is, I've been mentored by feminists for at least a decade now. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And that informal mentorship that happens in the day-to-day in places like this you know, in the streets, in feminist dialogues, in the classroom, in your workplace, talking with your coworkers. I think it's really important. So I would really say to young feminists to do your research, do read a lot, don't be scared by backlash, and continue to speak up where you feel safe too, of course, because you make a difference even in your small group, you do. And that will make a difference in your life. Like what I would say to my younger self is to just keep it up, because at some point you're insecure, like what is this going to lead me to? Where am I going to end up working? Or what is my next job perspective? And I think just keep at it, you know, be persistent, be consistent, relate to others with the same mindset. Coming to IAFFE has made an amazing impact in me as well, finding people that are, you know, even right now, knowing that Ana Luis is in Mexico City, same that I'm working in, it's just a relief that there's people nearby that are thinking in a similar way and that can make a team. So also, you know, have a network of people that support you and give you that also pampering that we need in self-care, because backlash can get to you. So getting the right people in your team is also a great advantage. Thank you. You're muted, Ana Luisa.
Sorry. Thank you, Stefania. Lucía, would you like to go next?
Yes, I do have the opportunity to mentor many young women and feminists. And I would say something I always talk to with them is that you do have something interesting to say, because sometimes I found a lot of young feminist economists that work really hard on the reports, on their job, and they are always behind, you know, like trying to be with the best work done, but their bosses, your boss is not going to put you in place and give you the opportunity to talk if you don't fight for that. And many times when I offer these young economists, why don't you go and speak in this place or in this spot in media, I said, I don't have anything to say. And yes, you do have something interesting to say. And also times you believe you're not an expert to talk about this, and you find out that there are many men out there talking about these topics without this expertise. So I think we had to believe in ourselves that we had something to say, because in the career of an economist, when you're surrounded your 50s, well, you had to build, it's important for that point that you had already built your opinion, because we have opinions as economists about the reality. And I think that aspect is very difficult for us with all this gender inequality to build, because we don't see other women talking in media or talking in politics about economy so often. So I think that's for me is the most important thing to build. I mean, spend some time on working on your public image, on your opinion, and believe you have something interesting to say. The things you are writing down for someone else, there are things that you can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucía. Ana Maria, I would love to hear your comments on this as well.
Okay, well, I pretty much wanted to say what they just said, but I really like mentoring. I think it's very important, because when I look back, for me, the specific mentors I had through my life have been key for me to take all the decisions, or to all the decisions I needed to take to be in this moment. So I think mentorship is very important. I try to do it as much as I could. I especially helping younger economists to find a way and decide what to do in the next steps in the future. So I talk a lot with young economists. I read their thesis and make comments. That is a lot of work, because well, it's not part of my job right now. I'm in UNDP, so I have to do this on Saturdays and Sunday, but I am still doing that because I think that is going to help them to know if they, for someone's, to know if they want to do the PhD, because the PhD is not necessary a necessary tool to advance in your career or to be a feminist economist. You can, depending on your skills, on your interests, you can find different paths in to go. So I think I have been helpful for some of the mentors I had in taking those decisions.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria. So I would like to thank you all for this delightful conversation. Now we have some time for questions from the audience. So I'll leave the floor to Noelia.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an amazing conversation, and I enjoyed it a lot. I hope everyone here too. Remember to put your questions in the chat, or directly you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask whatever you want. We are quite few people here, so it could be an intimate session. We are going to pause the recording now, so you bye and thank everyone. Okay, so just for a sec, goodbye and thank all of you for your presence here today. I found the conversation delightful, very insightful. I would like to leave the floor for Ana Luiza, who has been the moderator today, for final words.
No, I'd just like to thank you very much for this almost hour and a half now of discussion, and to thank everyone for being here. And maybe we have the 3 final minutes if you want to say something, our panelists.
Maybe answering the last question, just to say that I think feminist economics comes with an heterodox perspective on economics in general. Otherwise, we are not changing things. But of course, women are allowed to be, and they have the right to be and working in all the spaces, not necessarily with this perspective, because always the question is why we are not there in first place, and then when we are there, what are we going to change? But it's not, if for them, for men, it's not a condition to be progressive, to be in the places. It shouldn't be for women either. But I think as a feminist economist, we should keep this perspective, this heterodox view, also when it comes to macroeconomics. Because I think when we go there, and I have seen this in many places, sometimes is when all the men appear and they come with a very conservative perspective on the way economy works. So I think we should be there, fighting there. I think this is the future is there in a feminist perspective of macroeconomics.
I would just, share that I think working in government is really rewarding. It is an incredible experience. It allows you to influence the space of decision making. It is very challenging, as we talked about, at the same time. But at least for me, seeing in the Ministry of Economy more women in colorful outfits and less men in black suits has been a good experience. And for me, it's a little sign of the sum of the, as Lucía was saying earlier, this virtual cycle between the movement, academia, and government has been going on in the last, a long time, but let's say that the last 40 years have seen a lot of changes. So I'm excited to see what the future comes as well. And thank you all for sharing. It's really been such a rich conversation with everyone.
Thank you very much. This was an amazing space to talk and share experiences. And I hope it was also useful for the ones that are thinking for their careers. My final advice is that is very rewarding to be outside the academia. Also, it cost. It involves cost because it can hurt your academic path, but this is rewarding in the sense that you start to think a little bit more different, and you start to get new ideas and different perspective from different fields and different type of professionals. So I will say that if you have the opportunity, I will take it again.
Thank you, Ana Maria. So thank you for those last reflections and for everything that you shared with us today. It was very, very valuable. Thank you for your time as well. And now I leave the floor to Noelia to close the event. Thank you so much.
I add to those grateful words. I enjoyed it so much. I hope that more young scholars can encounter feminist scholars like you and feel the support from the feminist community. I'm hoping to meet you in the next IAFFE conference in June at Geneva. Please look out for future events on Building Bridges series and feminist research methods and other events from IAFFE and Young Scholars Committee that we are organizing. Best wishes to you all. Thank you for your time and your presence here today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Be well.